Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, Wooden Railway Adventures, Episode 153, Around the Railyard in 64 Seconds. The narrow gauge railway was booming and bustling, and more passengers were flocking to see the beautiful sights in the mountains of Sodor. Because of this, the engines were stretched thin with work, and there was little time for rest. This was taking a toll on all of the engines, and repairs were needed. One morning, workmen arrived to repair a number of the narrow gauge engines. Duke's coupling to his tender was broken, Rheneas' side rods were rusting badly, Mighty Mac needed new paint, Duncan's buffers needed to be fixed, and both Rusty and Smudger needed new wheels. The workmen sighed. "These repairs are going to take a very long time," they said, "several days at least. But we'll do our best." Duke grumbled to himself. "Back in my day," he said, "the controller sent you to the works to be repaired. Now it appears that the works comes to you." "This is faster and easier than going to the works," said Rheneas. "I know we would all like to be pampered and go to Crewe for the week, but we can't let the passengers down. We owe so much to them." "And every time I pull their train, all they do is grumble and shout at me," said Duncan crossly. "Maybe it's because you rock and roll too much," laughed Ivo Hugh. "Buffers don't become mangled and damaged by themselves. They do, if you fall off the line too many times." "That's enough," said Peter Sam. "While all of you have a nice relaxing day in the shed, I actually have work to do." "Hey," said Duncan, "why don't you take the workman's engine with you?" Nobody had really taken a close look at the engine that had brought the workmen. He was small and brown, and looked quite confident. "Oh, don't mind me," said the engine. "I'm just here to transport the workmen back to Crewe." "What's your name?" asked Skarloey. He was quite interested. "My name's Bertram. A bigger engine discovered me a few years back by the old mines, but now I work the line from here to Crewe." "I didn't even know there was a line to Crewe from here," said Sir Handel in surprise. "No more going by flatbed on standard gauge line, it appears," exclaimed Smudger. "All the more reason we should have gone to the works for repairs," grunted Duke. "Bertram," said the workman, "you don't need to stay here all day while we fix these engines. Go and explore, but be back by sunset so you can take us home." Bertram was quite excited not to have to sit around and wait. "I want to see the station where the big engines are," he said. "You can see Wellsworth Station from a distance if you take a specific line," said Sir Handel. "Here, I'll show you," and the two set off along their way. "Sometimes," said Sir Handel when they arrived, "if the big engines are waiting on passengers, they just might talk to you. Have fun." Sir Handel left Bertram to look at the station by himself. "Wow, it's so big," he said. "They don't have anything like this where I work." Just then, a sparkly silver engine puffed up, pulling a very fancy coach. My, said Bertram, "the standard gauge engines do look nice." The engine noticed Bertram off to the side. "You must be a new engine," he said. "I don't recognize you." "I'm only here for a little bit," said Bertram shyly. "Just helping with repairs, that's all." "Well," he said, "I'm Spencer, one of the grandest engines the island of Sodor has ever seen." "I can tell," said Bertram. "Pleased to meet you." He was awestruck at being so close to such a big and grand engine. "What do your narrow gauge friends call you?" asked Spencer. "Well, my real name is Bertram, but I'm also known as the Old Warrior. I used to be quite the engine back in my heyday." Spencer chuckled. "Oh my," he said. "Well, if you were quite the engine back in your day, you could say that I am quite the engine nowadays. I've won multiple awards. Best in Show, Engine of the Year, Most Popular Engine several times, by the way. You name it. I'm the fastest engine Sodor has ever seen." Bertram was amazed. "Wow," he said. "If only I could be like you someday." "You can," said Spencer. "You only need to do one thing." "What's that?" asked Bertram eagerly. "You need to run the Sodor Loop in a minute or less," said Spencer proudly. "Wow!" exclaimed Bertram. "Well, I wish I could, but I can't because I'm not a standard gauge engine like you are." "Tell you what," said Spencer, "I'll make a deal with you. As long as you say good things about me in front of your friends, I'll let you do the narrow gauge version of the Sodor Loop." "Really?" said Bertram excitedly. "When can I do it?" "Tomorrow morning," said Spencer. "At 8 o'clock you must zoom out of the shed and fly over here as fast as you can. If I judge that you've made it here in less than a minute, you'll be one of Sodor's grandest engines. Not as grand as me, of course, but still very grand indeed." Bertram smiled. "I'll do it," he said. "You won't be disappointed in me." And Bertram rushed away. Spencer laughed to himself. "Silly narrow-gauge engines, thinking that they're the same as me, the magnificent Spencer. Ha! This should be a good one." Later that night, Bertram sat with the other narrow gauge engines. The workmen hadn't completed all of the repairs, so they needed to stay the night. "Have any of you ever completed the Sodor loop before?" asked Bertram quietly. "What in the world is the Sodor loop?" asked Rheneas. "I've never heard of it." "An engine told me about it this morning. It sounds really fun, and I think I'm going to try it tomorrow." "Well, whatever you do," said Peter Sam, "just don't get into trouble. Otherwise, well, have fun." Bertram smiled. Little did the engines know that Spencer was pulling Bertram's chain, and that the Sodor loop really didn't exist. The next morning, Bertram awoke bright and early. As the other engines were beginning to doze as well, he realized it was almost 8 o'clock. "I can't be late," he said, "otherwise Spencer won't let me be a grand engine like himself." And Bertram rushed away as fast as he could. "Where are you going?" asked Duke. "The workmen are almost finished with us." But Bertram was gone. He raced over to Wellsworth Station. "I mustn't be late, or I won't be grand like Spencer," he said. But Bertram took a wrong turn near the junction and found himself on a strange line. He could see Wellsworth Station in the distance, but he didn't know how to get there. Just then, Spencer pulled up. "Oh, Bertram," he shouted, "where are you? You have, 10 seconds to get here." Bertram realized he was out of time. He raced down the line and accidentally flew right off the track into a field next to Spencer. Bertram groaned as he realized his big mistake. Spencer laughed and laughed. "You silly tiny engine," he said. "I'm sorry, Bertram, but it took you approximately, 64 seconds to go around the rail yard. You're not a splendid grand engine like myself. Better luck next time." And Spencer puffed away, laughing to himself. Bertram realized he had been tricked. "The big engines are mean," he said to himself. "Cheer up," said his driver. "At least nobody else saw you crash. That engine is just looking for somebody to pick on." "Still," said Bertram, "I'm not a grand engine after all." "Oh, you've always been a grand engine in my book, old warrior. Now let's get you cleaned up." While Bertram did feel better after what his driver had said to him, he was still wondering how he could get back at Spencer for being so cheeky to him.